Zion Williamson. He made his NBA Summer League debut Friday night against the New York Knicks. Not quite the debut he would have wanted. Scored 11 points in 9 minutes, but had to leave with a knee bruise. And then there was an earthquake, which canceled the rest of the game. Nick, what did you make of Zion's debut?
I mean, it started well. He had, despite the fact the jump shot, he tried one pull-up jump shot on Kevin Knox. That didn't look good at all. But we know what he can do well. It's a shame, though, he suffers this injury. They're going to be very cautious with him, keep him out the rest of Summer League. So we're not going to see him again until the regular season, when we'll finally get to see what Zion looks like against real NBA players.
Yeah, he's very fortunate. He's got David Griffin being the general manager. Was the general manager here in Cleveland. I don't know why they didn't sign him. Oh, they don't sign any of their general managers, but that's another story. But they're going to put a support around him, being veteran players and a strong coaching staff that will emphasize defense, getting out in transition. So you will not see the weaknesses he has right now as far as his game. No intermediate jump shot, struggles sometimes with the long jump shot, and his free throw shooting, shoots an odd number of free throws short. I believe they'll work all those things out for him, though.
All right, now that the Thunder have traded Paul George, there's speculation that the team will go into rebuild mode and perhaps trade Russell Westbrook. Russ, a very polarizing player to NBA fans, but he's an 8-time All-Star and a former MVP. Nick, should Russ want out of OKC?
I wouldn't blame him if he did. He's been loyal almost to a fault there, and guys keep leaving. Or Harden got traded, Paul George got traded, KD left on his own volition. But my money would be on Russ starting the season with the Thunder. The Thunder are not going to be able to get the best offers until the guys who were signed this summer can be traded. That won't be till late December, early January. And the Thunder are not going to send Russ somewhere he does not want to be. They're not sending him to Detroit or Orlando unless he signs off on it. He's been too good to that organization. So for them to get their best offers, they probably are going to have to go through the first quarter of the season with Russ on the team and then see which teams closer to the deadline could be in the market for him.
He's got a tough contract to trade, and also the expectations with Russ, you got to be able to get him out of OKC. There's no way you utilize all those draft picks and put those younger players with a guy. The only thing he's got left is championship aspirations. I don't believe there's a team that has those same, that can match up what he wants. So this is a bad situation that I believe is only going to get worse.
All right, on to baseball now. The New York Yankees are sitting in first place in the American League despite dealing with a multitude of injuries this season. The only team with a better record in the majors right now, the Dodgers. Are the New York Yankees the best team in baseball?
I don't know if they're the best team in baseball. They're the deepest, might be one of the most talented, but right now the way the Dodgers are playing, 60 wins after losing 3 leading up to the All-Star break, very, very impressive. But what the Yankees have done, with a lot of their starters being on the DL for an extended period of time, you have to be very impressive. One day it's one guy making the big hit. The pitching staff still has question marks on it. Do they add someone? Do they add another starter, Nick? Do they add someone to the bullpen? In typical Yankees fashion, you look for them to potentially add someone. But as far as bats are concerned, now we know in the postseason, pitching will shut down good bats. But right now, their batting and the lineup that they can present probably is the most dangerous in Major League Baseball.
I think the Dodgers are the best team, but the Yankees are the one that should have impressed everyone the most. To deal with all these injuries, it felt like the first 3 weeks of the season, every other game, there was a new Yankee on the IL. There was a new Yankee player that was going to be out 10 days or 30 days or 60 days. And in a division where Boston obviously has real championship aspirations, and they should. Tampa people thought they'd be good this year, but they've been better than people expected. In that division, for the Yankees to be what? 5.5, 6 full games up at the break, despite all those injuries. They've played 87 games. 2 games, they've had the same lineup, 86 different lineups. It is a testament to their managerial staff and their depth. And because somehow Cashman's done such a good job in, while contending, keeping the farm system, the people that follow that closely, of which I'm not one, but I can read what they write, say the Yankees have a top 10 farm system in baseball. They could be in the market for a guy as good as Madison Bumgarner. I understand Chris' point about adding to the bullpen, but if you can add add a starter that good for the playoffs to match the pitching up with the power they have offensively, that's what could make them the best team in baseball.
You laid out all the things that point to why they are and potentially could be going into the second half. But how much of it really is Aaron Boone and the job he's done, shuffling lineups around? They used, what did you say, Nick, 86 different
86
lineups
of 87 games
already this season to deal with their big bats, the Aaron Judge, the Stanton, unable to play for their injured, and to be able to be where they are at the break.
Yeah, I think that's one thing in baseball that's not discussed, because right now we talk about the long ball, we talk about the analytics, we talk about swing angles, launch angles, all those things, but how much are we just going to just stop giving the manager credit for? And when you have the type of injuries and the number of injuries, regardless of, someone's got to fill out that lineup. But it's the small things that your manager, your coach says to you in having confidence. Even though you might not been the logical choice, we have confidence in you. And the results that they've gotten from that, you have to be able to give not only their front office, but you got to give Boone a lot of credit. When you look at them, they're talented. One of the question marks was his overall experience.
Yeah.
So now when you look at 57 wins, when you look at their injury report, like, this is ridiculous, the number of the guys they've had injured and the types of injuries that they've had. Yes, let's look at the skipper and give him a lot of credit, even though there's not a lot of that being passed around in Major League Baseball.
And I understand that this is the year of the home run. You got 15 teams that are on pace to break their organization's home run record. The league as a whole is on pace to shatter the home run record in total by 500 home runs. I understand you've got to adjust your eyes to that. But for the Yankees to have a half dozen guys at the break with double-digit home runs, and none of those 6 are Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton, shows you how terrifying this lineup is for other teams, which is why if they had Stroman, or certainly if they had Bumgarner, you look at them as what turns into a prohibitive favorite in the American League. The Astros are going to be there. The Twins, their record is really inflated by being able to go up against the Tigers and the Royals as often as they had. They're a good team, not a great team. There's 2 potentially great teams in the American League, the Yankees and the Astros. We'll see what happens with the Red Sox and Rays. But if the Yankees add that one more arm, beat the bullpen arm, one of those starting arms, they go from favorites in the AL to prohibitive favorites in the AL.
All right, let's move on to the NBA now. The Lakers were holding out hope that they could sign Kawhi Leonard to create a big 3, but they struck out. So they filled out their roster with veterans, notably Boogie Cousins and Kawhi's former teammate Danny Green. Lakers also brought back Rajon Rondo and JaVale McGee. See, what do you make of the Lakers' moves after missing out on Kawhi?
I think that they responded in a very positive way. You have to realize there's only a certain number of this free agency was totally different than what we expected. Man, they spent $3.3 billion in the first 36 hours of free agency. There wasn't a whole bunch of choices, but I thought they did a good job as far as filling out their roster, because there's a number of things. You might not like Rondo as the backup point guard or starting point guard, but what Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins had together in New Orleans, if they can get some of that back, then the moves look to be a lot better than what they look on paper. I look for Boogie Cousins to look a lot like he did at the end of the regular season, which he was very impressive. 16 points a game, helping out with the rebounding load. Anthony Davis does not want to play center, even though there are going to be times in the game that he's going to play some center. So I believe these moves work out. I believe that Quinn Cook is a big man. He's a big question mark. Can he be a starter? Can he average 28 to 32 minutes? He's going to start a number of games where he's been a role player. I know he's a knockdown shooter. Can he relieve LeBron of some of that ball handling duties? And how good are they going to be defensively? You got to play some defense in the West. LeBron James has got to play some defense in year number 17. It should be aided by having Danny Green on the court and having AD to be able to protect the rim, Nick.
All right, first I want to give credit to Rob Pelinka in this regard. They clearly had a deal worked out with Danny Green that was, if Kawhi says no, here's what, because they announced that within 2 hours of Kawhi's decision, we found out Danny Green was going to the Lakers. He would have been, once the free agency fell the way it did, he would have been my #1 target if I'm running the Lakers and I miss out on Kawhi Leonard. And they got him. And they got him on a 2-year deal. Now, $15 million, a lot of money. Maybe you thought you could get him for 12, but the Mavs were going to pay him a lot of money, so they paid him what they had to. He fits exactly what they need. 3 times in the finals experiences, has played well in the finals, dead-eye shooter coming off his best year as a three-point shooter, and a very good defender. With that said, we can't for a week talk about how what the Lakers are doing is a gamble, going all in on the superstar, watching all these other guys sign, watching Beverly re-sign, watching Darren Collison retire.
You listed every name on there.
Seth Curry go off the board. I can't for a week talk about how it is a risk that is worth the risk because the upside is Kawhi Leonard, and then come on TV and be like, no, 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 it's a gamble with no downside. This was the downside. The downside is Rondo, JaVale, and KCP come on back. And that, to me, Rondo did not work last year on the court. Maybe off the court he was helpful, but on the court, the numbers are jarring. KCP had one good 3-week stretch. Aside from that, it was a bad season. JaVale had his best individual season, but he was not great for them. And then you get Boogie, which the upside, if you can promise me that Boogie is going to be okay with whatever role he gets, then of course you sign Boogie for the around the league minimum. But I'm not certain of that. What I am certain of this, Frank Vogel's job is one of the hardest in the NBA. It was already because of the way he was hired, because the people they made him put on his coaching staff, and now the smartest lineup for the Lakers involves Rondo and Boogie not starting. Certainly Rondo not starting, and I would say to Anthony Davis, hey man, you don't have to play center the whole time, but if our best starting lineup is Cook, Green, Kuzma, LeBron, Anthony Davis. LeBron with shooters and Anthony Davis. I think it's going to be more like Rondo, Green, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Boogie. That's not enough shooting. That's Rondo and LeBron on the court together, which didn't work last year. Can Frank Vogel go to veterans like Rondo and say, Quinn Cook is starting over you. Boogie, you're coming off the bench for the first time in your career? That's tough, man. And that's tough for Frank Vogel or any coach to do.
This is the toughest part. In sports, man, at the highest level, it's about who's the best. Who's the best center on the roster? So you go to training camp, and you might tell Anthony Davis, I don't think Anthony Davis has gone on record as saying, I don't like playing the 5. I don't want to be a center. So when you go to camp, you think Boogie Cousins is not going to beat out JaVale McGee? So you come out of training camp, who's your best center? Boogie Cousins is your best center. And if Quinn Cook doesn't play the type of basketball, even though the numbers with Rondo and LeBron didn't look good last year, you have a problem as a coaching staff if you're not playing the best guy. So it becomes very important, the training camp, which hadn't been that important for LeBron James teams. This one becomes very important because they don't have a bunch of time on the court, and those answers, all those things can be worked out in training camp.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, who will win a title first? You think it'll be Kawhi and the Clippers? Maybe LeBron and the Lakers? We discuss next on First Things First.